So you'll need some paper towel. You'll need a couple of containers of water, one to keep clear, one to rinse your brushes. I have a 1, a 3, and a 6 or an 8, a little bit larger. We'll start with the snowman, and then we'll move over to the lights, and then we'll come back to the snowman. So we're going to go back and forth. We also have 2 cards drawn today, which I will read both during the class. Your drawing, if you didn't have your drawing done, it's really, we'll just paint some lights on there, and then we'll start to add a little bit of detail. So we'll do a little bit and then come back to it. So this is a watercolor art class that I'll take you through step by step. So not to stress on it if it's not perfect. We're not looking for perfection. We are working with like-minded artists ourselves. We're all exploring, trying new things. Remember, please, that it's just a piece of paper. So if it's not what you want, the video will be available later and you can do it again. So give yourself that gift of time and patience and love and care, and not to think that what you make has to be better or the same as everybody else. So let's get into art mode. I like to take 3 deep breaths. So we'll start with that and just find something in the room that makes you smile, something that makes you happy, that you like, and give yourself a smile while you're holding that breath for a moment or a second. So we'll do that 3 times. So deep breath in and hold it and find something to make you smile, something to smile about, and release. Let that go. Second deep breath in and hold it and release. And a third deep breath in and hold. Release. There we go. All right, so we're just in art mode. So now we're going to switch from this camera. I'm going to just turn it and we're going to look at the art, the sketches that have been done. So these are the sketches. So hopefully you've been able to do that. One was just a circle with a little detail, and the other was just a variety of lights, colors. We can use whatever colors we like. So if you want to use your own colors that you like, different than what I'm going to put on, that's fine. I invite that. And at the very end, I'll also invite you to if you wish to, we'll take a group shot of all the different lights, all the different colors. So let's start with our snowman, snowhead. And I'm just working with clear water on my larger brush. And I'm just getting the whole background wet. So we're just going to paint around that snowhead. I'm going to miss that nose. It's going to avoid the nose. If you didn't draw that nose, then you don't have anything that you need to avoid. And I'm coming right up to the corner, right around to the outer edge. So these are cards, but as I think I mentioned, if you decide you want to paint this as a full picture, it could be something you could put up every year. So you can also have a look on an angle with the lighting and just see if there are any dry spots. Just add fresh water to it and just blend that in. So we're not looking for soaking wet, but we are looking for wet enough that when we put the color on, it starts to move. So our first color is indigo. Indigo is a deep blue. So this is the color of indigo. And as you can see, when you start to add water, it gets a little bit lighter. If you don't have indigo, you can use ultramarine blue. So ultramarine blue it looks pretty similar. It just has more of a gray tone, and you'd want to use more paint than water. So with that, I'm going into my indigo. See, it's really dark, but it's going onto the wet surface. So as I blend it out, it's going to start to get a little bit lighter. Bring that all the way down to the snowman, the head, right around the outside edges. Again, missing that nose. And if you paint a little bit on your snowman, you can use your paper towel to lift that off, or you could just leave it. It's entirely up to you. And that's where I'm going to leave mine. Actually, I'm just going to take a little bit of this dark blue and put it down here. Looks like I got a little bit of a white spot there, but I'm going to leave that now. I'm not going to add any more to that. And I know we've got a wispy mark in the sky. We're going to come back and do that after. So for now, that's where that stays. So that's the background or the outside of the snowman or snowhead figure. And we'll move over. We're already into our lights. Isn't that fun? So I'll switch from that bigger brush onto a smaller brush, onto my number 3. And the first color I'm going to introduce is called carmine. So carmine is it's a pinky red. And you can try to do odd numbers of lights if you like. You can do 3 of the same, and you can pick whichever 3 you like. So I have this carmine. I want that nice bright color in the front. So I'm going to paint this Christmas bulb, this nice red color called carmine. And as I said, 3. So I will do another one up the top corner. And I'm just following the lines that I drew. And I think I'll do one more down near the corner. And the first card that we have that was drawn is the pink card. It says, I choose happiness. Memo to self. Remember to enjoy the miracle of existence today. So just the fact that we're all here is a miracle. So we just remember that fact and be happy. Just be happy that we're all able to spend time together. I'm still using my same brush, number 3. and I'm going into ochre, and I'm going to paint 3 bulbs in ochre color. And I'm going to deliberately paint bulbs that are not touching each other. That way we give the other ones time to dry, and we don't need to worry about any bleeding of colors into a different bulb. Another ochre I'm going to put on is off to the side. So remember to allow the paint to dry when you go in from one section to another. Just then you're not getting frustrated, trying to fix something. And a third one in ochre. I think I'll come right down to the bottom away from the rest of them. So if you don't have ochre, if you mix yellow and brown together, it will make ochre. So it's more yellow than brown, but it will give you that nice bronzy color. And then I think I'll move into green. I'd like to put in some sap green. So sap green is a soft green, almost an olivey, or a summer, not bright summer grass, but because that would be more hooker's green, but this is more grass in the summer. So this is sap green. And again, if you put your paint on in different orders, that's fine. This is your string of lights. This is your creation. I'm going to put some more of this sap green in the center, and I have to go around the outside of that little stem holding the ornament. And I'll find one more that isn't attached. And I think I'm going to have to come down here where this red one is, and I'll just carefully go around that outer edge just so that it doesn't start to come together. Looks like my carmine was already dry. That's perfect. Now, any other colors that I would want to put on this are probably going to touch on each other. So I'm going to leave this for now and move back over to my this snowman. And I'm switching back to my larger brush. I'm going back to my biggest brush. I'm getting my brush wet, and I'm tapping it off on paper towel. So I'm not drying it completely, it's still damp, but I am tapping it off, and I'm going to start to move the paint in my background. So I'm just using a dampened brush and just starting to lift off paint. So I'm going towards the corner. And I'm looking for almost a white surface. Now, because if you've got the dark blue on your background, you aren't going to get a completely white background because it stains the paper. But you will be able to move that paint. So we're just looking for a whitish mark in the background. Almost like a shooting star. So you're just looking for that lightness. And if you've never done lifting off before, it takes a little bit of practice, but the paint has no choice. It has to move if you're putting fresh water on it. It has no choice. And you can use your paper towel and just blot a little bit if you like. Just dry, soak up a little bit more of that base color. And then we're coming to the snowman's, the details in and around the face. So I'm using my smallest brush now. I'm using a 0 brush or a number 1, whichever you've got, and black paint. I'll give this snowman some eyes. And then we'll give a little bit of a smile. And the smile in this snowman comes right off the page. The colors that I used in the lights, I used carmine and I used ochre. So I used those two colors for my lights. When I blend the two of those together, I come up with an orange. So I can just add a little bit of extra water just to lighten that up, but I come up with an orange. And that orange, so that's whatever you just used in the lights, the red and the yellow to give you an orange. And I'm going to paint the nose of my snowman that orange color. So that's ochre and your red. And the same effect that we did with the lifting off in the sky, I'm going to do a little bit of lifting off while this is still wet of the nose. Just at the bottom part, I'm just going to lift off a line at the bottom. Just, it's a little bit lighter, just at the bottom. And we've given our lights time to dry, so let's move back over to our lights. With my number 3 brush, I'm going to pick up a color blue. So it's up to you. You can use cobalt blue, you can use cerulean blue, you can use viridian, you can use phthalo blue. I'm going into cobalt blue, and still following that rule of 3, I'm going to paint 3 blue lights. I'm starting way up in the corner. This one hides down behind the red light. And I want to leave that little stem that holds the lights together. So this is cobalt blue. I'll find another one to do. Do the one in the front. And remember that watercolor dries 20 to 30% lighter than when you put it on. So if you want your lights to be nice and dark, a deep color, then go back over and give them another dark coating, or we could do it at the end if you need to wait for something to dry. So this is cobalt blue, and I'll find one more. Where have I got one more? I think I'll put one right here, hiding underneath this red light. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more lights to do. So I'm going to do 2 and 2. I like to have bright yellow. So I have something called medium yellow. So I'm going to add that color. It's nice and bright. So I'll do 2 of them in yellow. Another fun yellow one in the front. And I'm going to do 2 purple. So I have one over here underneath my ochre. I have another little purple one poking out over the side. From here, we're going to go back to our snowman. We have made that orange color that we did the nose with. So I'm going to use that same color. I'm going to water it down a little more so it's softer. So it's still orangey, but it's very light. And this is what I'm going to use just around the base of the smile. So we've let that dry, that black. So now we can go ahead and put some paint around that. So we have just a nice pinky look, orangey look around almost the cheeks. So his smile is right up to those cheeks. And we're going to create the look of snow in the background. So I have white watercolor paint and just with the tip of my brush. So if you haven't got the paint on the tip of your brush, roll your brush, just roll it just to take off any excess and then just get paint on the tip. So you want the tip only, and we're just going to start to make snowflakes. So we'll just, thanks Linda. So we'll just pop in little dots. We're creating snow. Some might be bigger snowflakes than others. That's okay. If it's bigger than you want, once it's dry, you'll be able to lift it off or use your paper towel and just tap it off. And we're not looking for straight lines going up and down. We're not looking for a complete row of dots. We're just looking for random dots just everywhere. So it's a snowy day. And again, if you need to roll your brush just to get the paint on the tip, then go ahead and do that. You need to rinse your brush off and start with a fresh brush, that's okay. If this is stressing you out putting these dots on, take a deep breath. It's just a piece of paper. I'm sure if you were to give this to someone as a card, they'd be quite happy to receive it. So hopefully you're able to see how that place where we lifted off is really with the dark around the outside is really showing that off. And we'll move from our snowman back over to our lights. And we have more work to do with our lights. So with black on your brush, and you can use a small brush, you can switch over to a 0 or a 1 brush. With black, we're going to thin that out and make it into a smoky gray. Not too light, you still want it to show up, but we're making that black. So if I start with complete black, then I'm adding just a little bit of water. Gives me that smoky gray look. And that's what I'm going to use on the ends of all of the lights that have the little attachments. This is how the lights are going to attach to the string. So you'll just do one light at a time. Just find the little end and paint that in. And it mightn't look like it's going to be very significant yet, but that will make a difference for where you put your strings. That's how you're going to know where your strings go. So find all the little ends and we'll just paint those. And again, as I said, if this is stressing you out, just take a deep breath. If your shoulders are right way up around your ears, just drop your shoulders. So there's quite a few of these. So you'll be just painting. Now, how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 10 altogether. This is 8. And if they don't show up as clearly as you'd like, go ahead and add just a little touch of black in your mixture of white and of water and black, and just darken it just a little bit. And while you're busy doing that, I'll read our card that says, I open my mind and say yes to life. Life is inviting you to experience a whole new level of happiness, healing, prosperity, success, and love. Open your mind and say yes to life. Life is inviting you to experience a whole new level of happiness, healing, prosperity, success, and love. So I'm just going to go back over with just a little bit darker on the ends of my light holders. Remember that watercolor dries 20 to 30% lighter than when you put it on, so you may need just to add a little bit extra. And I found one in the middle that I missed. So have a look. Maybe you did too. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 11. So thank you to those that chose those cards, the pink and the yellow. So choose happiness and say yes to life. Yay! Put your hands in the air and say yay. So now I'm going to start to give the reflection in my lights. So they look like they've come to life once we do this process. So I'm just a piece of paper towel. I've put water on my brush. You see there's just a drop of water there. I'm going to tap it off. I only want a dampened brush. And I'm going to go onto my light and I'm going to lift off some color. And I'm going to wipe it off on my paper towel. And I'll rinse my brush and tap it again and go back into my light. And I'm lifting off more color. So I want it to look like there's a light reflection on my bulb. So that's what I've created just by lifting off paint. So the paint will have no choice but to move when you're adding water. So I'm going to go on all of my lights. Just lift off a little bit of color. And I can add a second little dot if I want, just a little dot at the side. They don't all have to have only one mark. We can do a couple. And if you do find that you take off more than you want, once it's dry, you'll be able to go back in and repaint it. So there's a nice reflection on that nice crimson color ball or light. So again, I'm taking the paint, the color, and rubbing it on my paper towel, and then I'm cleaning my brush again. So that it just may take a few times to go over. If it doesn't work the first couple of times that you're trying to lift off, clear your brush, rinse it, tap it off, but we're not drying the brush. We're still using a dampened brush. So we've got some nice dimension on these lights. I'll continue on. And you can play with them. You can do more than one section. You can do a couple of little spots. And if you need, remember, take a deep breath. It's okay, just paper. But I hope your bulbs are starting to come to life. And my yellow color, I noticed this when I was doing the sample too. The yellow color is a little bit stubborn. I'm not sure. It's just a different depth of color in the paints, but you need to work at that one just a little bit more. Just be gentle with your paper, not to damage it. Just let the brush do the work. And this tool, this technique of lifting off is especially useful when you're doing petals and you're trying to have different depths, different dimensions, show shadows, have some crevices. Just by lifting off in certain areas gives a really nice depth to your artwork. Yes, the stubborn yellow one. I like the yellow. I like the nice bright yellow. As I said, I find the yellow paint for some reason, it stains and wants to stay there. So I still have a couple more to do. And in doing this, I found the end of a little light that I hadn't painted, so I think there must be 12. And while that's drying, I'm going to go back onto my snowman. If you're happy with your snowman the way he is, then that's fine. I'm going to go back onto mine and just add some fresh white dots. They've dried a little lighter and seem to just have disappeared into the background. So I'm going back on and just giving those a fresh coat. And that's up to you if you want to do that, if you're happy with it, or you're busy still with your lights, then that's okay. I'm just doing this in the meantime. And coming back over to my lights, I want to attach all of these lights together. So at the end of each attachment, we'll want to have a string. So my string comes out of the side of the attachment, and it can come behind or in front of another bulb. That's entirely up to you. But we just start to attach. Now, if you have a gel pen and you want to do this with the gel pen, that's fine as well. But I'm going from the end of each attachment on the light to another one. So I'm just looking for the next one of where they would attach. This one just kind of goes out in the middle of nowhere. It's not attached to any other bulb. But each attachment or each holder for the light is going to get a string coming from it. And just to make it look fun and playful, I'm not going in a straight line from one to the other. I'm just curving them around. And if you like, you can do a little square or a little mark around each folder. And what's important to remember is to sign your art. You've done all this work, so sign your art. Even though you're giving it away as a card or a gift, you can still sign it. You don't have to sign it on the front if you don't want. That's up to you. Or you can. It's up to you. So that is our Christmas light strings. And we have our snowman, and I'll sign there as well. So I do send these off to friends and family. I send them off to neighbors. I send them off to my grandchildren. We have a few more minutes, and I think what I might like to do is just pick up some of the color from the lights on my large brush with a bit of extra water. And I'm just going to put a few little extra dots just here and around. Just to make it look a little more festive. And I think I'll add some of my green. So I've got red on there. And I'm going to add a little bit of green. And there we have it. So I hope you enjoyed that. So we have our snow figure, our snowhead. I call it a snowman. I'm not sure whether to call it a snowman, a snowhead, a snow girl, a snow person. But there we have our lights. So if I put the two of them side by side, one has the flickers of color all over it for fun, and the other does not. So there's the two side by side. Whoops, I need to go back a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed that, doing those lights. You might need to practice a couple of times if you haven't done it before, but that lifting off is a fun technique. So hopefully you enjoyed that. You learned something new. Try it with flowers when you're painting. So yeah.